Hi, Jasper. Thank you for being here with us.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So let's start by getting to know your story a bit better. Everyone in Brussels has a story of how they came here and how they find their way into the bubble. What's yours?
Thank you very much. Great question. So my story is that I'm one of the few locals here in Brussels. So my parents are English and I'm born and raised in Brussels. I also have the Irish nationality after Brexit, so I have that European component. My studies were focused on political science with a keen interest in EU affairs, and my career so far has been all to do with policy communication, the buzzword of the moment. Now, quite early on in my career, so 4 years in the bubble, I started off as an intern in a consultancy, then as a trainee at DG Move in the European Commission. Then last year, I was still a comms and events officer at BERG, the European Consumer Organization. And a year and a half ago, I started as media and communication manager at HOTREC, which represents hotels, restaurants, bars all over Europe, the hospitality sector. So now it's all about giving a voice to the hospitality sector, defending their interests in front of the EU institutions. And that's my story.
Let's dig deeper into your bubble. Imagine having to explain your day-to-day job to somebody who sits outside the bubble. What would be the thing that surprises them the most?
Well, people may assume that Brussels is a town full of lobbyists, which it is, but there's so much more. It's not just boring meetings, it's actually quite unpredictable. It keeps me on my toes and I have to be dynamic, ready to respond to developments happening every day. The other thing is that my day-to-day is varied. I'm in communications where I manage lots of different responsibilities and a lot of varied tasks. So from one day I could be writing speeches, the next I'd be organizing events, and the day after that I'd be sitting with an MEP and discussing a vision. So this is really quite broad, diverse, and this is what I like. And it's really at the intersection between, policy and communications. That's what a lot of people talk about, Brussels. But actually, it's where decisions meet people. And this is where I find most interest. And that's how I try to explain what I do on a day-to-day basis.
I like that. Thank you. And what is a myth about your industry that you wish you could burst once and for all?
Well, first, people may assume that hospitality is all about big chains, and that goes for hotels, restaurants, but it's much more than that. Actually, 90% of hospitality businesses, all the hotels, restaurants, bars, cafes we all enjoy going to, are small and medium-sized enterprises. They're local, family-run. In Brussels, another myth is that it's too high level, abstract, a bit detached from reality. But then again, the policies that are shaped here affect the daily lives of European citizens. And for hospitality, this goes from the price of your coffee or whether a restaurant even survives.
That's interesting. Thank you. Zooming into your personal story, if you had to think about a decision that you made earlier in your career that might have felt a bit risky at the time, you were not sure, but then turned out to be the right choice, what would that be?
Very good. Now I could answer this in different ways. I took a few risks along the way. I've evolved quite fast in my 4 years here in Brussels. Then again, I would keep it quite concrete, where I remember a time when I started my current job, and a few weeks later, we had our General Assembly due. And I said, yes, I'm capable and willing, let's take on the challenge. So at the time, I didn't feel quite ready because I just started as a world I didn't know too much about, but I took on the challenge. And it was all about learning by doing, meaning that we had 3 weeks to organize a General Assembly in Budapest. Of course, a lot of work was done behind the scenes also by my colleagues or my predecessor. But for me, this was all new and so much to manage, and I took on the challenge, and I really enjoyed organizing it, working with our colleagues in Budapest, and delivering on the day.
Amazing. And what is a mistake that you made earlier in your career that still taught you something that you carry today?
Underestimating the importance of informal networks. This is something that we talk a lot about in Brussels, networking, who you know, the importance of it. Now, for me, I assumed that hard work mattered and that the different networks I was involved in, to a certain extent, was sufficient. Now, I realize after 4 years here, the people you know really make or break your experience in the bubble. And therefore, I joined Brussels New Generation, which is a community of young professionals that really tries to give people the tools, the confidence, and the skills needed to thrive in Brussels. That is a real example of a community that I find important.
Amazing. And a great work, by the way, with the community.
Thank you.
And then moving on to your opinions and potentially some challenges that you see ahead. Let's start with one question that I like a lot, which is, what's the hill that you're willing to die for in your sector, even if everybody else disagrees?
Thank you for the question. I'll take a broader perspective here. The constant ongoing debate between policy and communications in Brussels. Well, I find that clear communication matters more than jargon, especially when we talk about policy and hiding behind complexity. I find that communication and policy should both be understandable, not just for a niche audience, but also to the wider public. After all, we are living in a democracy, and language should be accessible to most people. Now, this, of course, with a note of caution, depending who you're talking to. If you have an audience that are experts in your field, you can use concepts that are a little bit more complex. But then if your message is to a policymaker or online, on social media, or to the citizen, it needs to be accessible and tailored messaging.
What is the biggest challenge that you see on the horizon for your sector?
This can also be answered in different ways. Now, I would say first and foremost, it would be addressing skills gaps and labor shortages in hospitality. We often see in the media, or the perception is, that hospitality is thriving, which it is, especially after one of the busiest summer seasons in recent years for Europe. It's going well. I would say that training, reskilling, upskilling the workforce, and also making working in a hotel or a restaurant attractive to the younger generation, this really needs to be focused on. When we take a step back, tourism as a whole contributes to more than 10% of EU's GDP. So this is a sector that really has a lot of importance, not only at the economic level, but also it shapes the way we live. It's a European way of life. When you see in Brussels during the week, all the terraces, restaurants are full. It's bustling with life. Creates these connections, a social aspect. Now, coming back to the challenge, we asked to our members across Europe the 3 main challenges after this summer season. And this was number 1, addressing labor shortages and tackling the skill gaps that we see so often.
Now, moving on, is there somebody in your field who you respect deeply, even if you might disagree with them?
I won't name names, but I do respect people who are principled with values and ethics and are also consistent in their line. Meaning, even if they are on the other side, this is a very Brussels talk, on the other side of the argument or on the other side of the table in a negotiation, well, Brussels, as everyone knows, is a political game. As long as people treat others with respect and values, then those are the people I respect.
Nice, thank you. And now my favorite question, which is, if your Brussels journey had a soundtrack, which song or songs would be on it and why?
Very good question. Now, I would say it's Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles.
Okay.
This is a sign of optimism and resilience in these turbulent times. And also the idea that I can finally reap the benefits after a lot of hard work and can tap myself on the shoulder and say, okay, well done. You know, the sun is shining, life's good, and here comes the sun.
I love that. Thank you, Jasper.
Thank you.